All right, so let's talk servers for just a little bit and kind of what we're thinking about and where we're going um, with this build. So, uh, on a wild hair, I decided to pick up this supermicro CSE 836BE16 server chassis. This is a 3U server chassis that holds let's see here. I believe it is 16 drives, plus two 2.5 drives in the back of the configuration, which I hope to put in the two solid state drives back there. But so yeah, just kind of a wild thought, went through and grabbed this. Didn't really have much of an idea of what I was going to do with it, but have been kind of building it out from here. So with that, I also picked up a 22U server cabinet and got that in yesterday. And bless the Amazon people who hauled it up all 4 flights of stairs for me. Although I did tip them generously for doing so. That was it was going to be a thing for me. I would probably have had to unpack it downstairs and take it up piece by piece because it was like 80 kilograms, I think. Doesn't sound right. It was a lot. It was a lot of weight. But anyway, so we got the server cabinet in. Found out that I have either lost, thrown away, or otherwise misplaced the rack ears for my networking switch, so I've got some replacements coming in for that. The Furman power conditioner that I bought for the tube amps, I've now got in there because it did come with rack ears, and got that installed. That was a painful process, literally, because the power conditioner's not light, and so it's very difficult to hold it in place. And then the rack studs were very difficult to install, and so I ended up getting it all screwed up and got the one of the rack studs spun on the drill and got my finger in it, and I started bleeding all over the place. So, fun times abound. It's not a true computer project until you've bled for it. So, yeah. Anyway, so I've been looking and doing a lot of thoughts about this and just kind of, what I was going to do with this setup. And so I've always wanted to build out a real server, a full disk server, so that I could store with parity information. I have never had parity on my information before. So I've done local backups and stuff like that, but I've always had to run RAID 0 for additional storage rather than parity. So this will be the first time that I'm going to set up parity. It's also going to be the first time that I set up a lot of things. So I want to do a true NAS setup, and that will be the first time I've used true NAS. And the goal is to use ZFS2, so I'll pull this up here. And these were 16 terabyte drives, and we're not going to show the cost right now. Number of drives were 16 drives, so 16 terabyte drives. And we're going to do one RAID group, and this is RAID Z1 single parity. and we're going to calculate that out. And you'll see we are just shy of 200 terabytes. So 199 terabytes of space, which will, it bothers me a little bit just because I'm slightly under a nice round 200, but anyway, that will plug in there. So if you look at the true, terabytes of available space, we will be over 200 terabytes, but the usable space, once you account for slop and the parity and padding, it would get down to 199. So that's the goal. So I placed a massive Amazon order for those 16 terabyte drives. Those were Western Digital, Western Digital drives, server drives. They're not SAS drives, which is, I know there's a lot of push to put SAS drives in these types of things, but the SAS drives, when you're doing this many drives, the difference in between, a $50 difference in each drive adds up really fast. So I opted to go for the SATA drives rather than the SAS drives. So that will mean that I don't get as the perfect world scenario, but it will cover most stuff. So, in doing, trying to think of what else we've got going on here. So I will be reusing, or at least the plan is to reuse my old X399 system. So that was the original Threadripper, the 1950X Threadripper, with, I believe it's got 64 gigs of RAM on it, and it will be able to hold the HBA card that I picked up as well. So the HBA card is shipping from China, so it's going to be a little while before it gets here. So I'll probably mess around with some other stuff first, but the goal is to get it all up and tested. I'm not sure, because I've currently got the Dark Rock cooler on there, and that may or may not clear the 3U server chassis height. I would have preferred a 4U, but those are really rare, or at least used anyway. You can get them new from Supermicro all day long, but to find a used one is not as common. If you go to the 4U, most of them are the front and back drive shelves. So you've got a full front shelf and a back shelf, so you actually end up with half height in the back, which would not work at all. And so I settled on the 3U because it's gotten more space. It would have been preferable to have the 4U with the extra chunk at the top, but we'll see. The other one that I'm not 100% certain on is the GPU. So I know that I need it for the initial setup of the TrueNAS, but once I can get that up and running, I may not even need a GPU and could pull that and just put, a headless server on there. And so, again, it all depends. If it clears, I may just leave it. It's difficult to tell based off of these pictures whether or not this has PCIe connectivity on it. I believe that one of those, they both look like CPU pins, but we'll see. If there's no PCIe power connectors, then I'll probably need to pick up or do a a dual power supply setup where I've got the 6-pin or 8-pin PCIe power connectors for the graphics card running in there, and then this system will run for the rest of the the motherboard and drives, get the initial setup complete, and then run the system without a graphics card after that. So again, it will depend on what I actually get in the mail. I was hoping to get this this weekend, but it looks like it will be here tomorrow, which is on Monday. So not as fun there, but we'll work with it. Again, I see 2 8-pins, but if those are what I think they are, those are CPU power connectors and not GPU power connectors. So hard to say. And then of course we've got all of the fan headers. We'll have to see. I know the Asus board can take some higher amperage fans, but these are really high amperage fans, so we'll have to plug that and see really what happens. I do like the redundant power supplies. That's going to be a really nice feature. I will not be setting this up with a battery backup. Redundancy is about as far as I'm going to go on this. Again, my data is not that important. It's not mission critical where I need to follow the 3, on-site, off-site, cloud backup type thing. Nothing I have is worth that type of infrastructure. This is just going to be a fun project to do. So yeah, that's kind of the premise, and we will dive into it and see where we end up. But I just kind of wanted to throw this out there as kind of a, here's the first steps, and I'm going to learn and post these as I go. So if anybody out there is listening, thanks for listening.